I live in the fancy part of town. No, I'm not rich. I found this apartment online, and for some reason, the landlord just couldn't find anyone to lease the spare bedroom he had. I should have known that was a red flag. Nice apartment, in a nice building, in a swanky neighborhood, and the price was bottom dollar, and nobody snapping it up? But I was young and naive. I'd just finished high school, and I was finally on my own, following my dreams and going to classes to become an actor. I was desperate for a place to call home. And if that place was in a trendy suburb, but costs like it's on the train tracks, let's just say I signed the contract before I even found out anything about the guy I was renting from. My name's Dan. Mike, my landlord, has been the worst thing that's ever happened to me. First, he started charging me for things we never discussed, like the amount of water I drank. The lights in my room had to be turned off at exactly 9 p.m., or he would charge me for every minute that passed. One time, I unknowingly fell asleep and left my bedside lamp on. I was broke that whole month trying to pay Mike that light bill. And then he forced me to pay for watching the TV. Said he never got to use his Netflix subscription because he was at work all the time, and that I should be the one paying for it. I have a dog. His name's Buster. And at first, Mike was very friendly with him, and he loved that I had a pet. But soon enough, he began asking me for money for pet sitting, saying that every time I left Buster at home, he counted that as him having to take care of and watch the dog. Honestly, I thought I was going to be able to at least save a little bit of money renting a room in someone's apartment, but it's become the biggest cost in my life so far, and I'm pulling double shifts as a pizza delivery guy already. Eventually, I had to get a second job as a waiter. I was working so much, I kind of put my dreams aside just so I could pay for my rent. I was literally working just to have a roof over my head. I tried canceling the agreement with Mike, but he told me that if I left, he'd give me a bad reference and that I'd never be able to rent anywhere ever again. I believed him, of course. Mike was just that petty that he would actually do that. One day, while I was cooking fish, Mike came home from work in a foul mood. "You okay, man?"
"Mind your own business. No, I'm not okay. I just bought that girl across the hall the most expensive bunch of flowers I've ever seen, and she won't even come out and talk to me. You know, I've been asking her out on a date for 2 years now, and she just won't budge. Like, what's her deal?"
I wanted to say maybe he's the problem, that maybe he should learn how to take no for an answer. But in that mood, I really didn't want to poke the bear. Mike's mood didn't improve in the next couple of days. It only got worse and worse, especially when he got fired from his job. He's been trying every day to ask our hot, rich neighbor Allison to go out with him, and he kept being turned down. So when he got fired, he blew up at me.
"You're gonna have to pay me double now. You're my only source of income."
"What? That's not our agreement. We have a contract."
"What, this stupid piece of paper?"
He tore our contract right in front of me and threw it at my face. I got a third job. Mike didn't bother to contribute anything to the household. I ended up paying for all the bills, and he never even bothered to share any food with me when he would splurge on his fancy groceries. Basically, I was just working to support my landlord. But then, a catastrophe happened. The whole city was put on lockdown. The restaurants closed. My 3 jobs had to lay me off. And in a single month, I was broke. The only money I had left was the money I'd been saving up so I could move to New York and work in the theater. And then, one day, I got home and found my room trashed. There were bits of broken ceramic all over my bedroom floor. Mike had taken my money. I burst through his bedroom door and found that he had bought himself a new MacBook Pro. "You stole my money!"
"Stole? I just collected rent."
"I told you I was waiting for my stimulus check. You were gonna get your money this weekend."
"You still owe me $1,000. I paid for the bills."
"You're supposed to!"
Whatever. If you can't give me $1,000 today, I'm throwing you out."
Of course I couldn't pay him. and the guy did throw me out. He kept all my stuff, saying he needed to sell them to pay for my balance. I tried to report him to the cops, but without any contract or any evidence, they just laughed me out of the station. I went back to the apartment and begged Mike. I had to swallow my pride. I was homeless, and all I had was a bag of old clothes. That was when she came out. "I'm sorry. Are you okay? I couldn't help overhearing you." I told Allison everything, and she hugged me. "I'm so sorry to hear that. What a horrible person. To throw you out while all this is happening, and everyone's losing their jobs and getting sick. Why don't you come inside?" Thank you." She asked me to sit and made me coffee. I realized her apartment was so much larger than Mike's. She had this huge wall that was just a massive window, and you could see the entire city. She even had access to the roof where she had a pretty little garden. I have an extra room, in case you were looking for somewhere to stay." I blushed. I had never lived with a girl before. Well, thank you. That's a very kind offer. But I can't. I would never be able to pay you. I don't know where to find work right now, either. She laughed. "Oh, no. You don't have to pay me rent. You can stay here for free. I guess you can just help me around the house and with my job, if it'd make you feel better. But you don't have to. I'm perfectly happy just to give you the room without anything in exchange." I tried to refuse twice, but Allison was insistent on not throwing me out helpless into the street, and I finally agreed. It was the best decision I'd ever made. Allison wasn't just rich and famous. She was beautiful and kind and generous. She gave me a job that very same week as her photographer. She paid for me to get professional training, and when I finished my training, she made me her official photographer and videographer. She was an influencer on Instagram and TikTok, and before we met, she was doing everything herself. She paid me way more than all my 3 jobs used to pay me combined. After the first month, I tried to pay her for rent, but she wouldn't hear it. She even snuck the money I put in her wallet back into my room. It was lots of fun being Allison's roommate and colleague. She was always so happy, and being around her made me happy. But one day, as we were on our way to a photo shoot for a brand of organic, handmade soaps, the door to Mike's apartment opened just as we were heading out. He stopped for a second, shocked that I was still in the building. And, to top it off, coming out of his crush's apartment.
"What are you doing with her?"
"Oh, didn't I tell you? I live with Allison now." Mike's face was indescribable. I couldn't help but laugh at how stunned he was. He had been trying so hard to get her to even talk to him, and here I was, living with her. That weekend, Mike called the cops on me. They actually dragged me to the station and wouldn't let me go, saying that I was a trespasser. Allison got me released as soon as she heard, and she shouted at the cops for taking Mike's word. The very next day, she registered me in the building as one of the tenants, officially. She dragged me by the arm, and when we got back to our floor, she banged on Mike's door until he opened it. He was clearly still asleep. He blinked 10 times just to process the fact that Allison was knocking at his door. I know you're dumb, so I'll say this really slowly. Don't ever try to come anywhere near my boyfriend ever again.
Boyfriend?
I was just as surprised as he was, but I asked the question in my head instead. Allison took my hand, brought me close to her, and kissed me. Yes, Dan's my boyfriend, so if you ever try anything again, I'll have you kicked out of the building. and Mike was never able to touch me again. I guess he was still processing the information that the guy he threw out was now dating his dream girl. A month of peace went by. And then, one day as I was taking photos of Allie for her Instagram, we heard a commotion breaking out in the hall. It was the building manager, and he was shouting at Mike for missing his bills for the past 3 months. The guy threatened to throw him out if he was unable to pay the full amount by the end of the day. I've never seen Mike beg before, so I took pity. I told the building manager that I would pay for his outstanding bills. I had way more money than I knew what to do with. After I settled the bills with the manager, I went back up and Mike was waiting for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man. If you want, you can move back in.
Oh, you're dumb, Mike. I paid your bills in exchange for taking over your apartment. I just signed the contract. Now you have 5 minutes to get your stuff together, or I'm calling security. Mike panicked and gathered all the stuff he could carry. And guess what? In his rush, he left that whack book that he bought with my money. I rented out that apartment while I stayed with Allison. After pretending to be lovers for Mike, we eventually did fall for each other. I guess I've been in love with her this whole time. We eventually sold our apartments and moved to New York, where Allison became a model and she encouraged me to finally audition for a role in the theater. I got the job, and my show premieres in just 2 weeks. I proposed to her last night, and she said yes!